is getting near breaking point. The only light at the end of the tunnel is the fact that 5 new bypasses are coming on stream in the next few years. And this was achieved by planning where the current batch of houses should go. Councillor Cowan, who's here tonight, was instrumental in achieving this much needed infrastructure for all our residents. So we've got 5 new bypasses, a new secondary school, and I think it's 7 new primary schools, and many country parks, one of which was damaged earlier on my question to the police. We can work together as a team of town, parish and borough councillors and residents groups to do the same for this plant, or divide and try to protect our own patches, and the developers will have won. By working together and establishing a robust plan, we will minimise the damage and maximise the infrastructure. So please work together to achieve the best outcome for every resident and stop trying to make political gain.
Thank you very much. Are there any other executive members who'd like to speak? Yes, Simon Weeks. Okay, we have them. Simon Weeks, please.
Thank you and good evening, Mr Mayor. Last Wednesday, Councillor David Lee and I had a meeting in Parliament with the Housing and Planning Minister, Awad Sharma. We drew his attention to the 13,000 new homes that already have planning permission across the borough, many of which have yet to be built. Woking Borough Council's responsibility is to develop a local plan for new homes and ensure that appropriate infrastructure is included prior to granting planning permission. We've already done this. Unfortunately, developers are not building these permitted new homes at the rate that meets either local demand or government expectations. This situation is attracting speculative developers to submit applications to develop unsuitable and inappropriate locations. Such applications are likely to be refused by Wokingham if they are not compliant with our local plan, particularly as we currently have an adequate 5-year land supply. Developers then challenge our refusals to appeal, and planning inspectors are sometimes persuaded that Wokingham is not providing sufficient homes, so they allow the appeal. This does not help address the shortfall in new homes at all. It simply adds further to the 13,000 permitted but unbuilt homes. It also contradicts and undermines the NPPF, which emphasises that planning decisions should be made at a local level by elected representatives. We explained this situation is unsustainable, and the Minister agreed to look at the detailed information that we provided. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris Barry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm very keen to liaise effectively with town and parish councils and, where possible and appropriate, to devolve powers to them. 2 examples of devolution are taking place in highways and transport at the present time. At the request of Woodley Town Council, we've been carrying out a 12-month experiment in Woodley using car park tariffs which differ from the rest of the borough. Woking Borough Council's concern in doing this was that the revenue from the car parks might fall because of the changed tariffs. From the data received so far, this does not appear to have happened, although we will of course complete the 12-month period of the assessment. Should the Woodley tariffs become permanent, I would encourage other towns and parishes to propose their own schemes should they so wish. I believe towns and parish councils are ultimately the local experts in many matters, and a strong relationship between them and this council can only be of benefit to both. Next month too, civil parking enforcement comes into force, and again there is an element of devolution here whereby towns and parish councils can purchase extra enforcement and comment on the suitability of the enforcement in their area. Indeed, one parish councillor asked me recently whether his council could run its own civil parking enforcement. I've asked officers to consider this idea, one which, at least to me, is an attractive one. Finally, can I remind the members of the CPE, Civil Parking Enforcement presentation, which takes place next Monday. I hope as many councillors are able to attend. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barry. It's Norman Yorkes, I think. I don't know.
Thank you very much. We had another successful Marvellous Festival on the weekend of the 29th and 30th of July, and despite some wet weather, numbers were roughly the same as last year. Construction work on the California Greenway is practically complete, complete, and officers are now working on a lighting scheme for our section of the route. Also working on designs for phase 2 that will deliver the link to 9 Mile Ride Equestrian. Thirdly, the first phase of major improvement works commenced earlier this month at California Country Park in Finchhamstead. First phase will include improved car park layout, providing easier parking, a new canopy to provide an all-weather outdoor covered cafe seating area, and a new two-way road to give better vehicle access. We plan to keep disruption to a minimum and that the project should be completed around Easter 2018. There'll be further improvements planned at the park after that. Turning to libraries, the number of children joining in the Summer Reading Challenge was 2,426. This is about the same as last year. During that time, we issued 109,457 children's books and stock. This was an 8% increase on the books issued last year. 375 new members joined because of the Summer Reading Challenge. Also, we held a number of events over the summer for children, and 1,356 children attended 98 separate events. Finally, on that, the usage of our self-service kiosk continues to be positive. Last week it was at 52% across our libraries. And the final topic I'd like to raise is related to recycling. You'll be aware, having read the agenda for the executive meeting next week, that there is a paper proposing a separate collection of food waste, which, if approved, will significantly increase the amount of material we recycle in this borough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Would you like to speak, Mr. Signal? You are speaking on behalf of
Yeah,
Mr. Executive.
Julian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A week ago, I was scanning through our local paper and I saw a quote from Councillor Croy, who was actually calling for more council houses, and I couldn't agree with him more. And I'm pleased to say that the number of affordable housing completions during 2016-17 was 212. And the number predicted to complete in 2017-18 is estimated around 500.
There's a difference between an
Yeah.
affordable house and a council house.
Thank you. As I was going to say, that's the makeup of both social housing and shared ownership. There are other achievements and progress today. The council housing stock has successfully achieved a high standard of decency, shown by 90% of the stock currently meeting the decent home standards, as I think one of our residents pointed out earlier on. Furthermore, there are regular stock condition surveys which enables the service to plan and monitor those that do fall out and require work needed to bring them back to standard. New flatlets used for temporary accommodation at Foxwood site are now being developed, and families will be moving in mid-September of this year. This will help towards the goal of achieving self-sufficiency for temporary accommodation. The Tap Lane project has now been approved, and work on decanting residents and tendering contracts has commenced. The Gorse Ride regeneration project is developing, and approval received from the executive for Cocaine Court and Arnett Avenue bungalows to demolish and the site to be redeveloped. A project manager has been appointed and will be progressing this scheme. We're actually very lucky to have this person, very, very highly qualified. 52 Reading Road progress is continuing at a fast pace. The tender process for service support specifications is now underway, and the tenders are due to be evaluated in October 17. Last 2 points, the Ecomotive has been commissioned to undertake the follow-on from the initial feasibility work carried out by John Broom Associates on potential self-build project. This will commence in October 27 and complete by March 2018. And finally, Woking Borough Council in partnership with Housing Solutions, Thames Valley Housing, Bracknell Forest Homes run a successful Strive project with 20 people graduating from the course. Feedback showed that all graduates rated this course as either excellent or good.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Stuart Woolman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief one from me, really, but in good news.
Thank you.
Third phase of the Superfast broadband project is now underway after contracts were awarded to BT and GigaClear. This will extend Superfast coverage to more than 99.5% of properties in Berkshire by the end of 2019, making it one of the best served counties for Superfast broadband across the UK, benefiting residents and businesses alike. In Woking, coverage will reach 99.53% by the end of the third phase of the project, well up from the 90.4% in 2013 and 91.8% currently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the end of statements by executive members. Do we have any statements from council uncouples? We have Gary and Stuart and Anthony. Gary, Stuart and Anthony. Well, Gary, would you like to start?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As well as managing our existing units, our other key focus in working with Woking Borough Council and Optalis on the arrangements for the housing management and care provision at Foster's Extra Care Scheme. Letting plans have been carefully coordinated with Woking Borough Council, who are having to take account of letting Housing Solutions Extra Care Scheme at the Birches, also Woking, and how best to rehold Cocaine Court residence, which is due to close at the end of this year. Motion of Foster's to make sure all borough residents and professionals are aware the scheme continues, and the latest event took place in August where we hosted an event which was very well attended with around 25 professionals attending, and we anticipate that this will further spread the word about extra care coming soon to Woodley. The latest business plan has been produced and discussed at our September board, which also shows the company has a strong future in meeting its key objectives of providing affordable homes for those in need within the borough, which also providing a sound ongoing income stream for the council services. We are pleased to see that the new dedicated Woking Borough Council housing officer working on our stock started in August, and we believe that this will help us to deliver a service to our existing and new residents, which I hope will be very good. We are also looking forward to the recruitment of a service and compliance officer jointly with Berrybrook Homes to make sure that the boards can be fully reassured about the services provided by our managing agents to the residents. We are keen to see the post in place as early as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Stuart, David, you wish to?
No, sorry, I just wonder if I could just make a comment on what Gary had said, please.
Please, now,
I think they've done an excellent job. There will now be 2 superb extra care units or buildings in Woodley, and I would urge any member who wants to see round this, especially bearing in mind the problems that we had when we wanted to replace the Foster's home. And I think it would be very good to invite anyone around.
Right, thank you.
I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Mayor, but could you explain to me under which constitutional provision somebody is able to comment on the reports who is not directly involved in giving one?
I will apologise.
I actually can't answer that, Drew, but I think David has apologised. Okay, now, who was next? Stuart.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I'm reading this report on behalf of Alistair Orty, who unfortunately can't be with us, so this is a report from Working Housing. Some good news items, I think, and some concerning items, but good. At present, Working Housing has 112 homes under construction, over 7 sites. To date, we've passed over the management of modern homes and Berrybrook Homes 35 new homes and 1 refurbished scheme of 3 units. A further 19 units at Phoenix Avenue are being handed over this week to Berrybrook Homes, so we're getting there. The delays on Phoenix Avenue mean that while the majority of the 68 homes will be completed and handed over before the end of October, Hill will not deliver the last 8 homes until early December, which is frustrating. We're now applying for full liquidated and ascertained damages, or LADs as they're called, to Hill invoices each month, which in total estimated to be between 65 and 75,000. Foster's extra care, which you've also already heard about, continues to progress well and is on budget. The contractor, Lee Fields, have been let down by the lift supplier, Stan, who are not fitting the 2 lifts until the end of November. The development should complete by mid-October, but will not be able to let the first floor units until the lifts have been installed. As you heard earlier from Richard, 52 Reading Road is progressing well, is on time to budget. Anson Walk flats continue to progress well, although we have no further information on any additional costs likely to be incurred in moving the electrical cable, also found unexpectedly across the site. Again, additional costs will be recouped from the surveying company. Groveland has had a similar situation with another one of these cables, and again, costs will be recouped from these parties. Elizabeth Road and Barrett Crescent sites are progressing well and are on time and to budget. The contract for Norton Road has now been let to Life Build following the necessary approvals, who will begin construction in early November. We also expect to be able to appoint the contractor for 2 shared ownership homes to be built at Finch Road shortly, as part of a joint venture with Berwick Developments to build 6 homes on the joint site.
You're out of time, all but 1 minute. Half a minute.
Several future potential sites are currently being considered in close consultation with WBT and the Commission. Thank you.
Anthony, you've got, would you be brief?
I will be brief. I will be brief, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to inform Council that we've appointed a new Chief Executive at Optilis, Martin Farrow, who has started work on the 4th of September, and I'm very pleased with his appointment. I am confident that he will provide the leadership which the company requires during the current project integrating the services of the Royal Borough with the Woking Borough services already being provided by Optilis. The integration project is on track, and I would like to pay tribute to the hard work and commitment of Optilis staff to the successful creation of one organisation through this integration programme. Finances are on track, and we expect a small profit in the current year. Work is underway publicising the merger of Wokingham, a Royal Borough's adult social care services, and at the National Conference in October in Bournemouth, we will use the event to publicise the benefits of Optilis delivering services to both councils. I believe that our experiences and those of other local authority trading companies will lead to at least one other council considering joining Optilis in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you. Right, that's the end of statements, members. We are pressed on time. We're now going into 20 minutes of member question times, as in the agenda. Again, could I ask you to be brief? And the first question is Councillor Cowan.
Last question standing my name.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much. David Lee.
Thank you. Gary, local plans cannot be completed in isolation, with many planning issues requiring discussion and cooperation over a wider area. The Council has been and continues to work closely with other local authorities and organisations. A number of joint evidence studies have been commissioned, notably those relating to the need for housing and economic development, such as the Strategic Housing Market Assessment and the Economic Development Needs Assessment. And what I've done is I've got hard copies for you. I can give you those tonight for some light reading tonight in bed. I don't think you really want me to read all of this out, okay? And if you want, I shall send you a soft copy, but if I may present you with this, and hopefully you won't have a supplementary. You might.
Gentlemen, do you have a supplementary? Can you read that first? Then I'll
No, it's fairly straightforward, really. With respect to working closely with other councils, at the last executive meeting, Councillor Lee did say that we would talk to all the various parish councils, residents groups, while the local plan evolves. Yet there was a press release completely unexpectedly which mentioned the potential evaluation by master planners in Bartham, Graiseley and Twyford, and I just wondered what meetings he had with the local borough councillors, parish councillors and residents in those wards.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, brief answer, please.
We have had no meetings as yet, but we will be meeting, I think I mentioned it earlier on, we will be meeting with ward members, with parish, town members and residents groups when we're setting out a list of sites that we're going to look at over a period of time, and everybody will be invited to them.
Thank you very much. It's Lindsay, are you ready to spring into action?
Yes, there was a similar question from a resident earlier, so I won't read it all out. But the point I want to ask is, what is the executive member going to do about the cost of the household insurance because of the increase that's happened? So the residents there have now got a substantially increased amount to pay, and I think I want to understand what the council is going to do about it.
I think you've covered this really, so just be brief.
Yeah, I'll be brief, but it's a good question. It deserves answering. A number of possibilities are being looked at the moment and explored to try to reduce the premium. However, the retendering of the insurance for 2018 is not recommended. There are currently just 4 insurers, that's all, 4 insurers who provide this type of business. One of these is new to the market and is not providing competitive quotes. One is very commercially focused and will often not quote for these types of risks in isolation. Therefore, given the claims history and with no improvements in the overall risk, the 2 most likely outcomes are that no insurers will quote and will be left without any cover, which we just can't be left in that position, or there's only 1 or 2 insurers might respond, but purely on a commercial basis, meaning another very significant premium increase.
Do we have
A quick supplementary. The issue is, I know there's only these 4 companies, but is there any way the council can think about allowing individuals to be able to do their own house insurance? And I understand there's some issues, but if you could give me a written reply, and I'll see about that, because at the moment the residents seem to have got stuffed.
Yeah,
the members asked for a written reply. Are you happy to do that?
yeah, I'm very happy to do that.
Thank you very much. You're right to Lindsay then, yeah? Mr. Williams, then. It's Ms. Bray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I should say before I ask my question that we haven't yet really welcomed the interim chief executive, and I'm impressed she's made it this far through the meeting without either falling asleep or having a fit.
She's still awake.
Yes, it's very good. I'd like to ask the question standing in my name, which is about breakdown of car park income.
Sorry. Who are we looking at here? Beg your pardon, please. Is I think Mr. Bowring back in action, making up for lost time.
Coming through on the outside. Yeah. Thank you, Prue, for your question. Early signs are encouraging in that the Sunday and evening car parking charges are meeting their financial expectations, and income from the Woodley car parking trial broadly mirrors what was expected. The council requires more parking data to be available to be certain, and plan to assess 1 4 years data from the Woodley trial before making a permanent decision. To allow sufficient time for this, the executive will next week be asked to approve a recommendation to extend the Woodley car parking trial until January 2018, so a permanent decision regarding Woodley can be made at that time. Regarding your request for detailed figures and analysis for individual car parks across the borough, the parking team have been understandably prioritising civil parking enforcement